It was the worst of times, and you couldn't really say it was the best of times as well. England at the end of the 1940s, when Thames Hudson was started, was really still exhausted after the war, really teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. But then, as through all history, and as today, when the world faces renewed economic challenges, always people can make a difference. Determination, single-mindedness, passion, energy. These appear to be characteristics which Walter Neurath, who with Ava Neurath founded Thames Hudson in 1949, and who had been a publisher in Vienna between the wars, clearly had in abundance. I came to Thames Hudson at the end of the 1960s, not so long after he died, and was succeeded by his son Thomas, who today is the chairman of Thames Hudson. Since I never met him, I can't tell you whether it was a wonderful, wonderful intuition or a conscious mission that in the post-war world, for a program of books, the peoples of the globe could be brought a tiny, tiny, tiny bit closer by an understanding of each other's civilizations, and in particular of each other's visual cultures. Whether it was a conscious mission or not, it became one, and it remains the core of the Thames Hudson programme today. That programme focuses, at least some of the time, on the most intense and creative things that human beings do, anywhere in the world, at any time. It might be a Renaissance painting, or it could be a new edition of the letters of Vincent van Gogh, a monumental enterprise which will reach its fruition in the autumn of 2009 with the publication of a new 6-volume edition. It could be Raghu Rai's photographic vision of Delhi, or it might be a voyeuristic insight into the interiors of Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Berger. The subject might be African textiles based on immemorial traditions and techniques, or it could equally well be an aspect of edgy 21st century street culture. The topic could be the visionary architecture of Zaha Hadid, but it could also be what happened when Haydn came to London in 1791. All these books are trying to widen people's horizons and open people's minds to the world. Back 60 years ago, the programme began in earnest with the first title, which was Geoffrey Grigson's English Cathedrals. That in itself was a minor landmark, because I suppose in retrospect one would see it as the first modern heritage book, a genre with which we're very familiar today. Another good seller in that first year was Albert Einstein's autobiography, Out of My Later Years, a sure sign that the independent Thames Hudson, though always known as an arts house, would use its independence to rove widely in search of good books of all kinds. But it is, of course, as an arts house that Thames Hudson is best known. Long before the major museums of the world had modern publications departments, Thames Hudson worked in the UK, for example, with the then director of the National Gallery, Sir Philip Hendy. Shortly after that, with the then director of the Tate Gallery, Sir John Rothenstein, on books on their collections. It was over 50 years ago that the first title, devoted to Picasso, was published in the World of Art series, now a world-famous series which has influenced several generations of people and opened their eyes to the wonders and achievements of world art. It continues today as a live survey of art of all kinds. In autumn 2009, the latest title will be devoted to a survey of the body in contemporary art. Many of the most important artists of the post-war world, in Britain, for example, David Hockney, Francis Bacon, Lucian Freud have close relationships with Thames and Hudson. And so many publications, in a sense, set their mark on a particular style or an era. One such was Sensation, the book of the 1997, the notorious 1997 Royal Academy exhibition, which has now been reissued as one of 20 anniversary volumes in May 2009. But always trying to move things on a little bit, there'll also be a special edition of the book by the Turner Prize-winning artist Mark Wallinger, one of the original participants in the Sensation exhibition. All the books in the Thames and Hudson programme aspire to innovate, either in terms of subject matter or publishing genres. Back in 1961, with the publication of The Dawn of Civilization, which started a series of books devoted to great civilizations and eventually came up to the present day, you had in effect the invention of the modern illustrated book, drawing on world authorities and telling us about the story of past civilizations. In a sense, the prequel to today's television blockbusters. But the same technique could also be applied outside the arts arena to science and technology. Such books as From Molecule to Man, a little bit later, the World of Science Library, which was the counterpart to the World of Art Library, and included a book on the nature of matter from the Nobel Prize-winning scientist Otto Frisch, helped also to open people's minds, to widen the sail, widen the interest in the most basic matters of a scientific kind that make up the universe. And long before publishers' catalogues were routinely full of books about ecology and sustainability, Thames and Hudson had a huge bestseller with the Doomsday Book as long ago as 1970, which was the first book to systematically explain how we were managing to destroy our own planet. And Design for the Real World showed what a massive irrelevance, Victor Papinet's book, showed what a massive irrelevance most of the design conducted in the Western world was to the great majority of the people who live in the world. Again, a theme which has new resonance in the 21st century. Today we're used to the idea that the street is a source of great creativity for fashion, for music, for illustration and art. But the granddaddy of all such publications on this theme was Subway Art on the New York subway, published 25 years ago and continuously in print ever since, and now also reissued in May 2009 in a giant format anniversary edition. The book is applauded and remembered both by the generations of that time and by the young graffiti artists of today. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about the community of people that make up Thames and Hudson and make these books on disparate subjects. It's a very special collection of people. It's very international. It's very passionate. It's very committed. And what I hope is apparent from the books is the enthusiasm, the infectious enthusiasm which goes into making them. I've always thought that the best way of educating people is to do it gently, not too overtly didactically, to bring people in. That's what we're trying to do, and I hope it shows. We love going worldwide. We relish being independent. We revel in trying to be innovative. We want to be, or we want to try to be, the best. And always we want to remain passionate and committed. We hate cynicism, so dull. There's so much that is marvellous, sublime, spectacular, or just simply beautiful that has been produced by human beings since the beginning of time. So I don't know whether you are a bookseller or a publisher in another country or an art lover or a book reader, whoever you are, join with us. Enjoy the process of celebrating 60 years of making a splash.